more rewards and accolades in the last 5-6 years than most of us will in a lifetime. And we're honored to have her on our board. She's been very instrumental. She's had a lot of impact on the organization. She has an amazing heart for the poor, amazing heart for orphans. Just to notate a couple things, she was, I may butcher these, but she was recently named, I think it was in Fortune magazine, number 3 in terms of fastest growing businesses in inner city, and number 6 in the world in fastest growing woman-owned companies. So she's out of Nashville and just does an amazing job. And we're honored to partner and serve with her, and we're thrilled to have her here tonight. So without further ado, Britnie, please come out.
Hey, y'all. I'm excited to be here tonight. I get asked 3 very frequent questions, and I'm going to go ahead and respond to those for y'all. Number 1, most frequently asked question in my life is, oh, this is so great. I'm really excited for you. So is this your daddy's company? I'm going to go ahead and answer that's no, it's not. And the other one is, how has your company grown so fast? And how have you been able to overcome the obstacles that you've faced? The answer to the last 2 is purpose. When I was 12, I had a life-changing dream that I would be doing mission work in Africa. This dream was so inspiring that I didn't really care about anything else throughout all of high school. And after high school, I went to a ministry/survival school, and they would bring in these world-class leaders to come and speak and inspire this youth. One day, I heard that this millionaire was going to come speak, and I was like, I'm going to be a missionary. Money will never be a part of my life. So as the incredible student that I was, I skipped class. But being the really good student, I didn't realize that this guy was speaking for 2 days, and so I ended up in his class anyway, and that was Gene Strite. Anybody know Gene? Being the incredible student, I was in the back, being totally disruptive, and he said, has anybody in here been on a mission trip? And I was like, oh, finally I can participate. Feeling really holy. I had just gone to Africa. And he said, has anybody had to raise money for that mission trip? Who in here did not like that process? I was like, I hated it, it was horrible. He said, did you know that you could buy a house with no money down, and if your mortgage payment is $900 a month, but you rent it out for $1,200 a month, you get to keep that $300? And I was like, go on. Do that 10 times, and you can live in Africa, and you don't have to send those sponsorship letters. And I was like, genius. So I was on the survival team, and we went overseas on a mission trip that summer, and I met a little girl that changed my life forever. We put on a women's conference, and at the end we were praying over all the little girls, and I met a little girl that couldn't speak because she had been so abused. I'm not going to go into the details, but it was really horrific. That she was abused when she was 1, and that stuff happens, but what was really disheartening for me was to find out that almost everybody in the room, all the women, had this kind of abuse happen to them in their life, and a lot of the babies die because it was socially acceptable that the fathers would break in the kids. And I was so pissed. I'm just going to say it, guys. I don't care. I was so pissed that I went back to my tent and I got on my knees and I said, God, whatever you want to do with my life, I want to be the one to come back and stop this kind of thing from happening. And I came back and God said, I'm going to take you out of the mission field for a while. And I was like, no, this is my entire identity. And he said, I'm going to put you in business. And I was like, that's even worse. It sounds so lame. But he did. And I bought my first house at 18 years old because it was the best thing to do, get into the real estate business. And in the process of buying it, I learned that you could do this thing called flipping houses, and you could make like $10,000 a flip, which is basically $1 billion to an 18-year-old. And so it was like, okay, if I work really hard and flip a lot of houses, I can save some money and buy an apartment complex and make like $10,000 a month. Then I could build orphanages when I go overseas. So I thought this was the most genius plan ever. So I dived right in, 2007. Perfect timing. And I failed for 3 years. During this process, everybody was pretty disappointed in my life. I did not go to college because I got on Google and I Googled what colleges teach you how to flip houses, and weirdly, nothing popped up. I'm very practical. I had all these scholarships, but I'm very practical, and I was like, well, I guess I have to learn another way. And so I was studying 12 hours a day. I ended up waiting tables. I was $35,000 in debt on credit cards, and one night, I just throw my hands up at God, because I'm telling you, there's a lot of people really disappointed in me. And I said, God, why am I here? I'm smarter than this. And he said, because I want to bless you. I'm like, really? I just made $7 in 9 hours in change. And I've got to pay $350 on this house that I bought in the mortgage payment. That's how much I had left. And that minute that I said, whatever, God, these 2 guys and a girl walked in. And we ended up having a conversation about real estate. And I was like, I'm going to be a real estate investor someday. They introduced me to someone that said, I will hire you as an assistant, but you have to move to Nashville in 2 weeks. So I pack my car and move up there. And I'm like, I'm going to prove everybody wrong. I'm going to prove my family wrong. I'm going to prove my boyfriend wrong. I'm going to prove my friends wrong. This real estate thing, by the way, I don't have TV, so I didn't really know what was going on out there because I just didn't watch it. I felt like this would still work. This real estate thing is gonna work, and I am going to be living in Africa before I turn 26. So I move up there, everybody's like, you're an idiot, you're an idiot. And 30 days goes by and I get fired. I cannot tell anybody though. Pride, I still have pride. So the day I got fired because they did away with the position, I met these 2 guys that were rehabbers. And so I moved into my car like any intelligent person would do, and lived in a grocery store parking lot, and I worked for free. So I had already accepted a job that was $600 less than the minimums on my credit cards, and the guys that I rented my house out in Charlotte, North Carolina, their first month's rent check had bounced. So I'm now evicting guys. I've got this mortgage payment, I've got all these credit cards, and I'm like, I will work for free. So I was learning the business. So I did. I worked for free. I survived by filling up these horrible rental units in the worst neighborhoods for these guys. But I learned how to find projects, how to renovate them, how to design them, how to manage a crew, and how to sell them in the worst market ever. I learned how to hustle. At the end of 9 months, they said, okay, you're ready to go. And I'm like, I've gone 3 years without one dime. I was really skinny, though. I looked good. You girls understand. So at the end of that, I was like, I'm going to do my first project by myself, and it was going to be awesome. I had to get somebody owner finance it, and I used the last pennies on my friend's credit card, and I did all the work myself. And 2 days before closing, the entire back door frame gets kicked in, and these robbers steal the oven. They drag it across the wood floors, and then the local crackhead comes up to me and he goes, tonight they're coming back for the refrigerator. And I'm like, no, they're not. So I slept in the house with guns because I was willing to die for that refrigerator. I was. But I didn't give up because every time I wanted to quit, I remembered that little girl's eyes, and I knew that this was not about me. So that project closed, and I, over the next 1.5 years, became the biggest rehabber in Nashville. And it was awesome. Thanks, guys. Anybody? No? And at the end of that year, God really laid on my heart. He said, call Gene Stride. And I was like, why? He said, because you should ask him to be your mentor. And I was like, this guy doesn't know who I am. I don't know anything. Like, he said, pay him whatever he asked to. I'm like, I still don't have any money because I'm putting him in the next project. But I ran into a guy that happened to tell me he was friends with Gene and had his cell phone number because he was like, oh, what are you going to do for the rest of the year? So I get Gene's number, I call him up, I tell him that he agrees to be my mentor, and thank God he did, because I was working 18 to 20 hours a day for the years at this time, and had he not been mentoring me, I would probably be dead right now. I have some gray hair coming in, but I would probably be dead. Because that summer, again, guys, I was the biggest rehabber in Nashville. I was balling. I was making it. I'm like, we're going to make a difference. I'm going to be able to quit by the time I'm 26. This is going to be great. I'm going to move to Africa. Because I didn't care about business. I didn't care about real estate. I just wanted to help these kids. And he would always tell me, he's like, Britnie, he's trying to correct my mentality. He's like, give proportionally. Because I felt guilty. I don't know if any Christians like feel guilty having money or having stuff, but I felt like, oh, I don't want it, I want to give it all away. And he's like, no, just give proportionally. Give little by little, as you're at this level, give it this level, And so it was awesome to have that mentoring. And that summer, 2012, this guy, he kept going over budget. He was my contractor, kept going over budget, like $60,000. And I'm like, hey, I don't really have any more money. You gotta stop doing that. You came up with these budgets. That day, I get 200 phone calls from angry subs that apparently, after I'd killed myself to pay him every week, he had not paid them in 3 months. And everything hit the fan at one moment. My sister's here. Callie, wave. Callie was like 14 at the time, and she came up to follow in her sister's footsteps. And I'm like crying on the floor. I thought I lost $500,000, but I lost $1 million, which I didn't have $1 million at the time to lose. It was horrible, but it was awesome because in that moment, when you are crashing and burning on the ground and you literally sacrificed your entire youth to do something you feel like the Lord put on your heart, all I could think about was this little girl's eyes. It was so transformational. And I remembered that the Lord gave me the name Ariel, which is the name of my company, and it was about keeping the big picture in mind. And with Jean's coaching and remembering that this life was not made just to have stuff or to live for yourself, it was about making a way for others. 5 months later, my company was 5 times bigger. But I'm still struggling. I'm like, Jean, I don't know if anybody in here is jaded, but I am about giving because like I get hit up a lot because my heart is giving. My heart is making a difference. But something the Lord's been laying on my heart is like it's about sustainable change. It's about giving a hand up, not a hand out. Anybody care about that? Raise your hand.
Yeah.
Raise your hand. Okay, great. So I'm whining to Jean, and and he says, I haven't been talking to you about this, but why don't you come on this trip with me in January? I'm with this group called Horizon Initiative, and we're going over to Kenya to see our orphanages. And I was like, okay, great. So I'm on my way over there, and my friend came with me, and I said, oh my gosh, I feel horrible. All I've done all these years is just learn real estate. I have no useful skills. I can't change any eyeballs out. I can't take any teeth out. I said, and he's like, oh, just come on the trip anyway. And I said, what am I going to do, flip a mud hut? I'm not helpful at all. I mean, anybody feel like you don't really have the skills that can make a difference over there? Because these needs are really bad. And I always thought I'd be in the medical field, but God put me in this real estate thing. So I went over there, and I was jaded, and I was ready to pick this organization apart. I was ready. And so I got on the site, and I pulled in, and I'm like, whoa, this place is beautiful. And you go through, like, heaps of garbage and, like, starving, horrible street kids, all this stuff, and you pull in these gates, and it's, like, beautiful. And it was really weird. And I'm not going to lie to y'all. I kind of judged it. I was like, this place is too nice. I'm like, I don't know, all this poverty mentality stuff went through my head. And I was like, this place is too nice. But then I did this activity with the kids where we were just doing arts and crafts, and I said, okay, everybody draw your life in 10 years. And it was so cute because they drew houses and their husband holding their hand and them dressed nicely, and they had like college degrees and they had jobs. And that sounds super basic for over here, but that's incredibly profound for kids that have been in horribly abusive situations and abandoned. And so I did my digging, and I found out that Horizon actually trains the kids and says, you are not here because you were abandoned, and we're just going to shove you into a safe place to live so you're not killed on the street. They're trained that they're special, and they're brought there to become leaders in their community. And it was so cool to see, like, yes, we hope that message translates, but they were living it, and they were drawing it, and they had hope, and they were empowered to actually do something. So I kept digging, and I was like, all right, I think I like this place. But let's see, I mean, is most of their money going to admin costs? And I found out about their 100% promise, that 100% of the donations are going directly to making an impact. No admin is taken out of the giving, which is really powerful, because anybody heard of organizations that have some bad things to do with that? I've donated a lot, and I found out things. It just makes me angry, but to see that they had that promise was really cool. And then I walked around the site, and I found out that they have a cow farm, chicken farm, vegetable garden, and they're feeding kids really healthy organic food. They're teaching them how to farm, and they're selling extras in the marketplace to help cover overhead. Genius. These must be some successful guys that came up with this, and girls. Successful people came up with this concept, and I'm like, this is genius. So having that atmosphere of excellence on the site, I found out, was the trick in their mentality, because the standard had been raised. The standard and your atmosphere has a huge impact on your mindset. So I came back to Nashville and I was like, I bet you that would work here. And so I started buying up blighted neighborhoods that nobody wants to live in, the highest crime, worst areas of Nashville, and I said, if we could practice this atmosphere of excellence here, I bet you we could scale it and go overseas and do it bigger. But we got to practice in our own backyard. That's a long flight. And so we did, which little did I know that year, this whole urbanization thing started sweeping the nation. But we were the first ones pulling new construction permits in Nashville. So my company started blowing up. The award that Daryl just mentioned is number 3 in the nation for fastest growing inner city company. It was so cool. I was shocked. We just grew 2,200, almost 2,300% in 4 years. And it was because of these ideas that I took from this Horizon trip and the incredible impact that we've been able to make locally as we're growing. And so I came back and I was like, I cannot just wait till I'm 26 to go live overseas. I want to start making a difference now. And so I was talking to Gene and he kept saying, Britnie, give proportionally. I was like, what's the ultimate give proportionally? I'm super impatient. I'm a millennial. Okay, and I think most Americans are pretty impatient. But how can I start making a difference today? And so we came up with, for every house that we sell, we sponsor an orphan in the name of our home buyers. And I just did that because I had the money guys like telling me I can't do it. And I was like, well, it's just one per house, you know? And I found out that people started buying our houses over other people's houses because they wanted to be part of this incredible give back. And Horizon became this amazing vehicle to live this global impact. And so I'm all jazzed, the company's growing, and I started having really crappy staff. And I'm like, why don't these people get the vision? I'm talking about it, I've told the stories, and they just weren't getting it. I kept having these problems. And when you grow that fast, you tear through staff pretty fast, because like not everybody can grow with you. And I would try to show pictures like you guys are seeing here tonight, but what will make them experience like why we exist? And so I took my whole staff to Kenya, January 2015, with Horizon. They were amazing at putting that on. And my whole staff got to see why we exist, the difference we get to make every day, and that their jobs aren't tied to just making me rich. Their jobs are tied to making an impact in the lives of the people who are most desperately in need. It was amazing because we came back and they started kicking butt. We started tearing it up, and I have the most loyal, die-hard staff because of that trip. It's amazing to know that 5 years ago I was living in my car. We're a $40 million company today, and in 10 years we're on track to be a $1 billion company. And that's a huge credit to my staff getting to understand that the bigger we get, the more people we can help. And I've been able to do that through Horizon, which has been amazing. And I'm so grateful to be on the board because I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated with the way that a lot of organizations are run. And I promised God that when I give, I'm not just gonna give. I don't wanna give and throw money away. I feel like that's not being a good steward with your money. You have to invest in something you wanna see expand. So what do you wanna see expand? We don't need any more welfare programs over there. We don't need any entitlement. We wanna give a hand up, not a hand out. And this has been the most incredible organization, and I have gone through it all, guys. I've like looked through, just trying to find, and I've been really impressed, and I'm so grateful that they asked me to be on the board, and I'm so grateful to kick their butt sometimes and challenge them and say, I'm a millennial, I can speak from a different perspective. But I want to challenge y'all. I want to challenge you to give proportionally and to find a really creative way to be giving back again. Doesn't have to be Horizon, but give to someone giving hand up. These kids actually have a chance. Most orphanages, I don't know what you guys know statistically, but pretty much almost all of them besides Horizon, after they get out of the orphanage, they age out. They go right back to the street into horrible situations. And we have an inheritance program where these kids, if they're wanting to go to school, they're really smart, their college is paid for. And then the goal is to have them pay it back, which is awesome. No handouts, obviously low interest, but they pay it back so that you're not destroying human dignity. But if they're not super into school, we buy them a piece of land to build them a house, and they start farming. They've already been learning how to farm, and they become really successful there. But these kids have a chance. It's a long-term, from the inside out change that's happening through what Horizon has been doing, and it's been incredible to be a part of that. So give proportionally, invest in hand up, not handout programs. Go on a trip. Anybody interested in going on a trip? Having this experience, raise your hand. Well, good, because I've been doing some schmoozing for you. After hearing the incredible impact that the trip had on my staff, the board has graciously put together 4 trips that we're going to be auctioning off tonight. Pretty excited? And it's pretty, it's expensive to go over there, and it's hard. If you don't know somebody, you shouldn't do it, honestly. But they've put together some really cool packages that I literally told them to make 10 times more than they were because that's what I thought it cost. So we're going to be auctioning that off tonight. And in the back right corner, we've got some kits that you can sponsor. It's really fun to sponsor it in the name of your company and put it up on the fridge, let your team know that we're making a difference in the life as we're profitable. And that's all I got, honestly. That's it. You're in a good place. Do some auctioning.